David Arush is a former Pentagon Director of Arabian Peninsula Affairs. He's also a former colonel with extensive experience in special operations. He's with us from Washington, D.C. Always good to have you, David. So what if we can start by setting the scene here? The pilot of the F-15E was recovered within hours on Friday when the plane went down, yet the second weapons airman remained behind enemy lines for nearly 36 hours. What are the main survival challenges for a downed airman in the mountains of Iran for that length of time while actively being hunted down by the RGC?
Yeah, man, it's some scary stuff. So the first thing is he has to remain alive. So there are some reports that he may have broken his ankle. The ejection trauma is not unheard of. So then he has to remain concealed. And that's a real challenge when people are actively looking for you. The word we're getting in first reports in war, always wrong, was that he went up on a ridgeline and hid in a mountain crevice. Fortunately, there's been a 70-year effort to try to train airmen and other personnel who might be isolated behind enemy lines in survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. For the Air Force people, it starts at the Air Force Academy, and then when they get certified as pilots, they have to graduate from this school as well. And it's a pretty serious course of training. I actually have a high school classmate who died undergoing it. So pretty impressive skills.
Roaches.
Now, we know President Trump mentioned dozens of aircraft were involved in this operation, with reports of a significant firefight breaking out as those commandos closed in. I mean, how did the US manage to maintain air superiority deep within Iranian airspace long enough to secure this rescue?
Yeah, it really is remarkable, particularly when you consider how close they were to Isfahan, which is, a major Iranian city, has military bases. They can surge soldiers, besiege police, whatever. I think it was just a lot of aircraft, and it was a lot of slow ground attack aircraft, particularly the A-10. One of them was lost. This is an airplane that the Air Force doesn't really like and has been trying to retire for a long time. Ground people like me love it because of what it can do. It appears that they first off destroyed local communications so that the Iranian forces couldn't coordinate efforts. There also are reports that there was a Central Intelligence Agency disinformation effort reporting that the pilots had already been rescued. And then we know that there are reports that the Air Force cratered some of the roads leading into the area to prevent Iranian reinforcements. I think that when this is all done, it was a very resource-intensive operation. And I think that there was probably a lot more effort there than we initially thought there would be.
Now, according to US media reports, 2 C-130 special operations planes were reportedly blown up on the ground by US forces after becoming struck or immobilized during the whole extraction process. As you know, Iran disputes that. We've just heard a comment there from the Iranian military spokesperson. Of course, I'm not going to ask you which version of events you think is true, but I want to know what kind of decisions go into potentially destroying, $200 million worth of aircraft in an operation like this?
Yeah. So it's not an easy decision, but if the aircraft is immobilized, then that's what you do. So you'd have to ask yourself why the Iranians would destroy an aircraft that they could have captured. And if they think they destroyed it with soldiers on it, then, we'd see dead soldiers. So basically, when the aircraft becomes immobilized and these guys landed on a dirt runway, and a heavy cargo airplane landing on a dirt runway, chances are pretty good it's going to be immobilized. They probably had that contingency in mind. They probably had more than the standard demolition charges. Basically decide to, the reports are 2 of the Little Bird helicopters, not Blackhawks. They're very small and relatively inexpensive helicopters. And then the 2 C-130s, you put demolition charges, you focus on the communications and crypto, but also towards the fuel compartment to create maximum destruction. And then you set off the charges as you leave the area.
Yeah,
sorry.
David, the fear being what? That the Iranians could utilise the tech on board, that they could potentially even reverse engineer what they're able to get their hands on.
Yeah, that's one of them. But there's also just the propaganda advantage. We don't want to see, the North Koreans seized the USS Pueblo in 1968, and that's like one of their crown jewels. I've been to the Czech Military Museum in Prague, has from the Cold War days the colors of the 32nd Infantry Regiment that were recovered in the Korean War that the Chinese gave to them as a fraternal communist gift. So there's a propaganda advantage, there's a technical advantage, and also it creates space. If there's an explosion going off while you're exfiltrating your people, it creates space so the Iranians can't move in and shoot at you from a close distance.
All right, David, many thanks for giving us that inside information on all of this. A fascinating operation. David DeRoche there, Director of Arabian Peninsula Affairs.
Thank you.